Out town, listening on 93.3 Real Talk Radio. We appreciate that very much. If I were like your typical FM DJ, I'd say keep it locked and loaded right here for your chance to win. But there you are, and we appreciate you, and I hope you're having a great day. And thanks for listening. And if you're in the Heisen Legal Law Firm chat, watching on YouTube, Warchant TV, you know this, but our live chat sponsor is Heisen Legal Law Firm, dedicated to representing injured clients statewide. If you've been in an accident, call Heisen Legal Law Firm, 813-803-0733. Free consultation. There's no cost to you unless they win. Your interests come first with Heisen Legal Law Firm, if I could say it. The name you can trust for justice. Call 813-803-0733 now or visit HeisenLegalLawFirm.com. Heisen Legal Law Firm, your advocate in times of need. Offices, Tampa. So thanks. Here we go. Let's say hello the old way here. I just look across the glass and say, there he is. There's the man.
What the hell are all these buttons? I don't know. What is this? A big control board? All these buttons. There's doohickeys and so forth.
It's dark in there. Yeah,
yeah. I'm in the shadows.
You're in the shadows, creeping around.
The League of Shadows.
Watson's grandson, Tom Watson's grandson's going for the gold. His name is Sam Watson. He set a new world record. I saw it. It was posted all over the boards. It was all over the internet, the interwebs, on the Twitters and the like, or the X's, whatever it's called now. I saw him speed up there and break his own record. I watched it happen, and I thought, that's freaking awesome. His granddad is a regular listener to the show, and he must be so proud, and we're all so proud. Good for you. Let's make it happen. Sam, let's win gold and break your own record again. He looked like a spider monkey. Just hauling ass up that wall. It was crazy. And I mean that as the ultimate compliment, right? Just boom, 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 boom. That would be fun to be as good as he is at anything, right? If I were as good as he is at climbing at any other thing, wouldn't that be awesome? Just to say, like, I am that proficient. Like, as good as he is at climbing, I'm that in, I don't know, skipping, throwing rocks, speed reading, anything.
I think it'd be cool if you were that good at climbing, just like Mr. Watson, because we could get out of the observable portion of practice from field level, and everybody's walking up the steps at Dick Howser Stadium to the third baseline, like, I got this, and you just scale the wall, and then you're up there.
That would be pretty hilarious. There are the parkour people who frequently die, and you read about them trying to be cool going up on walls, and then they slip, and that's it. They're dead. Not Sam. Sam's kicking ass and taking names. It's a beautiful thing, and we're rooting for him. So good to have you on board. Hey, by the way, if you're in Pensacola tomorrow, I'm speaking to the Pensacola Seminole Club. I will be there tomorrow evening. I look forward to seeing everybody in Pensacola. Let's get together, fellow Noles, and shake hands, kiss babies, and talk some Florida State football. Speaking of which, they're over in Jacksonville today. Warchant has you covered. We got a team of folks over there. I know Ira and Aslan are over there. Anybody else from the staff? Matt, go over? Will Sarah go over?
I think it's a two-man event.
Two-man event?
Yeah.
You only need two. And you know what, Tom, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I'll put you on the spot here now that you're in studio. Let's hear from Mike Norvell lauding a certain player that you and I have been lauding since the first time we saw him and thought about the prospects of him being a good player.
You'll have to introduce his name because the question was inaudible. So who is that player that we've been bragging on?
Mr. Otto. Mr. Otto, indeed, and he is an offensive lineman that we've been high on for some time. Let's hear him talk about him because that's exciting to me too.
No, I mean he's I would say maybe the redshirt freshman version of what a Darius Washington was. I mean he's just, you see him, he's center guard. He can go out if we needed to him to be able to play some tackle. But just seeing him grow, and he's got a special future in front of him. He's one of the guys that he's put himself in a position to potentially gain opportunities here this year out there on game day, but for the growth that we're seeing from just where he was a year ago, he came in, really talented young man. Still there's some things he had to play in that position, just grow and learn, but he's very smart and definitely one of the harder workers that we have, and proud of what I'm seeing from him.
Really cool. And the reason I say that is that I think there are opportunities for him to play. And we thought, Tom, at the beginning of the year that he was still probably a good year away. He may still be. But when you hear about that kind of progress from a player And you want to get excited. You want to believe that there's a chance that they can get in there and make plays. And Andre Otto's been good from day one, and he's a big, strong kid, and it's good to hear his name mentioned. He's got a chance to maybe contribute this year at the very least.
So that's what Mike is saying, that there's a chance that he gets on the field this year. He's put himself in a position to get those reps. I don't think the question comes up. This is just me inferring, not being out there in Jacksonville today. I don't think the question comes up without Andre being out there in important situations today. I don't think you asked a question specifically about Andre Otto. It seems strange, right?
Yeah.
So if you're asking the question, that means he's getting a look. And we know he's versatile enough. We've been excited about this guy. I remember talking to a couple other members of the beat the first time I saw him. He's quick. He's always square. He's got the hips. He's got the agility. So he's always in good position. And if you're in good position, the only thing that's left is your strength and then the refinement of the technique. But he has the hard part down.
Yeah, and if you can bend and move your feet, okay, we're off to a good start. Like you said, he's always square. He's always he can sink. He can do whatever you need him to do, and that was always encouraging. Then it becomes, are you strong enough? Yeah, because you're young, and you're going against grown-ass men, and it can be difficult. And so you just don't know what the timetable is on that. It means that they've seen enough from him from that strength standpoint that they feel very good about where he's at. And so let's get to. It'd be exciting to see if he's able to play, because I think he's very talented. This is part of a trend of a conversation we've been having, and this is a conversation that I think worries some and excites others. A whole bunch of other people probably don't know where to go with this, right? The people that are most excited about right now in this camp, Tom, are young. Very, very young guys that maybe you didn't think would play, outside chance would play. Certainly, maybe you didn't think they'd have to rely upon, whatever that is, right? Every day, there's another mention of one of the young receivers, one of the young running backs. Now we got a young offensive lineman being mentioned, right? We talk about that secondary. It's not just the starters. There's a ton of redshirt freshmen, true freshmen, redshirt sophomores that are players that everybody's excited to see play, whether it's at safety or at corner. Even some of these young linebackers have kind of turned heads. So I find it all fascinating that's where this camp has kind of gone. Like, let's see. Maybe Landon Thomas's name begins to get mentioned some more. We heard Chris Thompson talk about him, yesterday after practice, and how he may have a chance to start. Now, listen, again, you guys know we've laid it bare. Sometimes guys aren't being talked about, and there are various reasons. Sometimes those reasons are minor bumps and bruises. They're going to miss 2-3 days. We're not allowed to talk about why they're not out there or why they're not being mentioned in a practice report. But if Mike hasn't addressed an injury of any kind, and a player hasn't been mentioned for a while, then it's usually safe to say, all right, he'll probably be back. I don't know why he's missing, whatever it is, right? So you have not heard about Landon Thomas. You haven't heard about it, despite the spring that he had. And people thought, I've had a ton of people ask me, well, why not? He had such a good spring. What's going on? Yeah. They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, Mike hasn't addressed it. I think we're all good, guys. Just everybody relax. It's a week into camp, 2 weeks into camp. We'll be all right.
Yeah, so Landon Thomas was observed via Warchant TV, where you can catch practice footage in a red jersey, not a garnet jersey, not a white jersey, but a red jersey recently. Okay, so that I can say that's a fact.
Yeah,
that
we saw it.
That's the observable portion of practice where he's in the red jersey. Judging by Chris Thompson's statement yesterday, though,
that was encouraging.
Chris Thompson will not pipe sugar, sunshine, rainbows in any form or fashion if he doesn't think you've earned it. He is a tough taskmaster type, and he doesn't like hype very much.
Mm-hmm.
So when he answered the question the way he did yesterday about Landon Thomas and talking about that he's going to be a player, he's going to be a player for Florida State, and he's going to be one soon, that tells me, he has the attitude, the toughness, he can block for his position, whatever that is they ask him. And they said, we line him up in a lot of different places. Because the tight end position at Florida State is almost as multiple as the wide receiver position. You think about outside receiver, slot receiver, guys in a bunch, guys who block. Tight end's the same way. You could be on the line, you could be in the backfield. But whatever Landon Thomas has done that we haven't been able to see, in addition to camp, Chris Thompson thinks that he's going to be a problem matchup for opposing defenses. So I wouldn't be surprised if in about the next week to 10 days you hear a little bit more about him as well.
Yeah, that's encouraging. That's very encouraging because he had a great spring. And I was hoping that would carry over right off the bat and we could all have a reason to get excited. So that is good news. It is. I am really eager. I was eager when camp started. I was excited when camp started. I was pumped up to watch this team, to see what they were going to be. I knew they were going to have a different identity, but I'm even more kind of anxious is the right word to see them play, because I think there are some unknowns that we won't know until we see them play football games, not practices, but football games. We don't know what's going on in other people's camp. I say that every day, but it's a reminder to those that hit the panic button when things don't go well for the offense. And it hasn't gone great the last couple of days. I'm obviously not in Jacksonville. I don't know how it went today, but I would tell you that they're going against what I think is going to be a very good defense. I believe that is going to be the case, so I would suspect that the offense is going to have its struggle in camp. I'll be anxious to see what they look like when they play somebody other than these guys on defense.
Well, this is about the time of last year's camp where we got that report out of LSU. And the video was about the access to practice and the panic button being mashed about LSU's defensive back play.
Right.
These guys don't make any plays. I charted 15 plays.
Right.
And there were 12 completions. And 2 of them were drops, the incompletions. That was the report. It was something akin to that. And I remember actually being at the traffic light outside of the office here. It's a long traffic light, so you can meander.
You got time.
It's a long one. And I remember texting you, hey, man, check this video out. The reports at LSU are very good for us. This is very good news, because you're just thinking about how our offense last year was going to match up. You're telling me that Keon and Johnny are going to go against an awful defensive back group? And as it turned out, that scouting report from camp from LSU was correct.
Yes.
One of the worst.
Played them all year.
Oh, and he's like, I don't know. Even the veterans that you trust, they're third string. So if you think that the savior is a transfer from Texas A&M, he's running third string. All that to say, you're correct. Georgia Tech may be having issues right now. Not a whole lot of people will crunch the Georgia Tech practice reports. So it's hard to know what it is that they feel and some of the things that maybe on a bad day they see and they are concerned about.
Hey, Brett, scroll up earlier in the chat. Answers are there. And if you go back a little bit, I talked all about it. So there's that. Yes, the LSU, the remembrance of that is good, right? Hearing that from a year ago, knowing that turned out to be true. I'll ask people, as we're wont to do in this industry, right? Our cohorts at other sites, our cohorts at other schools that cover these teams, you can call and try to get information the week leading up or 10 days out. Hey, how are they looking? It's just 2 guys talking about the teams they cover. Because as long as you're willing to give an honest give and take or whatever, and obviously within the rules of what the coaching staff asks, I never mention injuries ever, and I never ask anybody about their injuries. I always just say, how's the team looking? And I let them go where they're going to go. And, I'll do that. There aren't a lot of people, like you say, that are locked in on Georgia Tech. Although I would tell you that fan base has reason to be encouraged more than they've had in years. It was a program that was on the rise last year. It's one of their own at the helm, and it is a guy who's helping on running the ball, had a 1,000-yard rusher a year ago. They got a mobile quarterback. They like to run him. He will run. Haynes King's part of what they do on the ground. So Florida State will have their hands full in regards to that, like that rushing attack. It's well orchestrated, well coached. That's not the thing that I think they're worried about. They're worried about their defense, and I'll be interested to hear where they think that is at. But you could do this with every team, right? You can go one by one. You got a new coach at Boston College. We'll see, right? You can keep on going down the line. Where's everybody at? It's funny. The SMU folk are really excited about the upcoming season, excited about their first year in the ACC, excited about the possibilities for a program that has been invested in big time, right? There's billionaires wanting to make sure SMU grows and someday eats from the money trough, hence the reason they took the deal they did to get into the ACC, right? They wanted to be part of the Power 4 at the time that they were doing it, Power 5. But if you listen to some of the people on the ground there, they don't believe the lines of scrimmage are ready. They're not ready. That'll be the thing that holds them back. They've got Lashley's a very good play caller as a coach. We know that, right? They've got returning talent. I interviewed their defensive end. That's a Miami transfer, Elijah, who's a really good player. But you know what? It takes more than one really good player off the edge to carry a defense. So I think they have those concerns.
Well, that's the thing about this year's group. And I'll liken it to Alabama in its heyday, 1.0 with Nick Saban. And I'm not saying that that's where we are. So let me put that qualifier out there. They weren't sexy on offense, man. They weren't. They were complex on defense, but they didn't have a quarterback forever and a day. That was the talking point around Alabama. They're winning titles without a quarterback. No NFL prospects are coming out of Alabama to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
And that was 6-7 years, and they won 3 or 4 titles. But it was because you knew the lines of scrimmage would be dominated. It's because those running backs they had would end up going in the first round or the second round, because the way was paved for them to win Heismans, for them to make it to New York, and for them on 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 to still say we can run the ball and be correct that they can run the ball on 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 4. I'm not saying that that's where we are. I'm just saying relative to the competition in September, if they've got line of scrimmage concerns, we might have skill position concerns, but we do not have line of scrimmage concerns. And that's a nice little advantage.
Buddy. Big exhale. You always felt like you were kind of just trying to piecemeal it together, right? Where you were like, oh, well, we're going to have to trick them. Going to have to do a lot of
Mike has had to do a lot of that.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a lot of tricking. Nothing like that so far. More on the practice over in Jacksonville, which we alluded to earlier and got the audio from. We have more audio today, too, as well from over there. We'll talk a little bit about what we do know that happened over in Jacksonville. And Tom mentioned paving the way. If you've paved the way down there and taken care of the boys, make sure that they're soothed, that they are soothed with your anti-chafing ball deodorant known as the Crop Preserver. There you go. They also have the Crop Soother, which is aftershave lotion for the boys. We're making them comfy down there these days, guys. No more hiding. You just tell everybody, I got to do right by the boys. Of course you got to do right by the boys. That's a rule of life, whether it's friends or those guys. 20% off and free shipping with the code WARCHANT at manscaped.com. 20% off with the free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code WARCHANT. Manscaped's the perfect way to get through the summer sizzling hot as it may be.
Yeah, forevermore until the end of October.
20% off, free shipping. Use the code WARCHANT at manscaped.com.
You probably already know.
We were here, ladies and gentlemen, in Jacksonville, but we were at Everbank Stadium. Oh, you're fine. Let's go watch these guys stretch and practice. Aggressive today with that water gun. Charles Lester back in return and punts. like this. Don't we like this, everybody? Quick reps. Everybody's getting involved. Sadness. Jalen Brown. If we can get in focus. There we go. Jalen Brown, I mean. Did I say Jalen Lucas? I meant Jalen Brown, everybody. Lorraine McCoy.
Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
The rust is real. We threw him back in the fire. The rust is real. I knew it was going to happen.
Well, the problem is I'm doing video directing on top of the audio, so I'm so used to clicking off the practice highlights and doing all that kind of stuff that now there's two boards to play with, not just the one.
That's okay. It's all right. Mike, I lied. I said we had more audio. We don't. I heard more audio, but we don't have it. But I can tell you what he said, and we can talk a little bit about it because I think it's representative of where we're kind of at in practice right now. In every camp, and somebody brought this up yesterday in a question to Seminole Headlines, and they said, do you sometimes wish, and I'm paraphrasing, that you didn't have access to camp because there are numerous examples, and this was not a criticism, and he's right. There are numerous examples from you guys over the years that have access every day to practice, either over or underestimating an aspect of the team. And he's right, because we only get to see them go against each other. So some things can be painfully obvious on a daily basis about what this team is or is not when they're facing one another, but no one else. We don't know what that means when that thing that we're either overestimating or underestimating. What does it look like when it's a Georgia Tech across from you? What does it look like when it's a Miami or a Clemson or a Notre Dame, right? You don't know. You don't know. So there is still the grand mystery. This is why they play the games. We got to see how the things play out. To a coach, and this, by the way, this is also true, just so you know. This is also true of coaches and their assessments of their teams. You'll hear coaches think, Jimbo did this a lot. Mike has done it before. Every coach that I've ever covered has done it before. They may think they have something, and they're really excited about it. It's working in camp. They've been able to expose certain aspects of the defense utilizing a player's skill set, and they think, well, this is going to translate, and I'm excited about this. And then they get into a game, and it doesn't. The matchup's not right. It's not as consistently good because the matchup isn't the same each week or each day. And all of a sudden you realize, well, that's not what I thought it was. It's an aspect, but it's not a strong point. Or the opposite's true. You're really concerned about a guy who might be getting exposed on the regular. Well, if he's getting exposed by a future NFL wide receiver, it might not be that he sucks. It's just that guy's really good. And the people he's going to be going up against each Saturday are not first-round receivers. And all of a sudden he fares much better. So I always try to keep that in mind, and I think that's a fair observation that, there are aspects of what we're witnessing that we can't know definitively are good or bad, great, awesome, awful, dreadful, until they get out there and they go against somebody other than themselves. But what I'm getting at is this. Every year, about 2 weeks in, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe like 15, 16, 17 days in, you reach a point where players are beaten down and tired, and they got to get kind of their second win and really find that reach back, right? They're toughening themselves. We use analogies all the time about boxers, right? How is it guys can take punches, whereas if you walk down the street and just hit a civilian in the face, they're down. They're going down in a heap. But not boxers. They take punch after punch after punch. Well, they work at it. They go out there and they train every day. And they build themselves to a place where they can handle it. There's a physical aspect to all of that, right? This team is in that in-between stage where they have to turn the corner. But every year at this time, whenever that stage hits, I feel like coaches, media, fans who maybe have connections to players and or other inside sources all begin to panic about some aspect of the team. Unless the team's perfect, unless it's 2013 and you've got one concern, which is your freshman quarterback making his first start, every other aspect of that team, we were like, awesome, really good. Hopefully the quarterback doesn't suck. Hopefully he's everything we think he is, because if he is, they could win the national title. That's kind of that was a big if. Quarterback is a big question mark if you don't know it. But everything else we knew was good. Most teams aren't built that way. Not every team is on the precipice of winning a national championship going into a season. So they're going to have maybe a weak punter, an average pass rush. Maybe they're not nearly as strong up front as you'd like against the run or whatever it is, okay? I think Mike is there. I think Mike is at the, I want this to be efficient on offense yesterday stage of camp. I think he's tired of the inconsistencies at wide receiver. And you know what? I get it, because you're an offensive coach and a play caller and a former receiver. You're going to want those guys to look better even when they look good. You're going to want them to look better always. I think there's a little of maybe if they weren't going against future NFL corners and a future NFL safety, we'd see more consistency from them. But I'll also admit maybe it's a problem. Maybe they're not nearly as good as they need to be to achieve greatness. Could they just be pretty good?
Well, it depends on, again, how the offense is structured, what they need the receivers to be. Mike Norvell did offer today to the media that they're working to get Kentron Poitier healthy. So there is that he went on record saying they're working to get him up to speed there in terms of health, which is frustrating. He also did talk about today how, the timing is getting better with all the newcomers, and that answer was tied into a couple of groups, like the Malik Benson and Jalen Lucas types of the world, but then also the freshmen, like Wayne McCoy, and how he spoke about how Elijah Moore has had a really good camp. I mean, we discussed this on Monday coming out of the scrimmage, how his answer to Ira about receivers Saturday night when Mike Norvell was reflecting on the scrimmage was that they're in position to make plays, they're not finishing. And he needs somebody to step up in that regard. Then he's asked about Elijah Moore 5 to 10 minutes later, and he says that's not a player who's scared of the moment. He's still raw, but he continues to show up in big moments. I mean, the gap there is what we're trying to define. Before the Georgia Tech game, how critical of a need is this to move a younger player up, or is Mike trying to push his veterans just over the finish line and he believes they're the ones he's going to lean on? Every time he speaks on this particular position group, though, it does feel like the Wayne McCoys and Elijah Moores of the world might press into active rotation work earlier this season. We'll see. There's a lot more to be determined, but the other wrinkle here is that Kentron, they're working to get him healthy, according to Mike. So there's another player that, man, when you're trying to find consistency behind Malik Benson, you could feel that you're up against it a little bit.
There are questions about some of the other receivers and why we're not hearing their names. And I would tell you that this falls under that same umbrella, that just because somebody's not being mentioned doesn't mean they're not practicing well, doesn't mean they're not playing well, doesn't mean that they're out for the year, doesn't mean a lot of the panic-stricken responses that one has when they're not hearing the things they want to hear. It could be a collection of things, and I would just not hit the panic button yet. I know that there are specific players, especially when you have a 5-star wide receiver on your roster, that you want to hear about daily. And you got to know that if you're not, it doesn't mean they're not playing well, and it doesn't mean that they're gone for a length of time. It just means there are factors that we're not allowed to report on that happen week to week, day to day, different players, different weeks, different times. It's just not anything I can zero in on. And that's what makes all of this tough. You can try to lend context. You can try to give an overview. Mike, you can use Mike's words to try to read into it, and that way you can't get in trouble. If Mike's going to reference it, like Tom just noticed that Mike mentioned by name Kentron. Well, now we can talk about it. Kentron's been banged up. I think some of the frustration is that it seems like as one guy comes along and you start to feel good about where he's at in the process, some other guy gets dinged for a day or two or a week or whatever. And then another guy comes along and then another guy gets dinged, or that guy that's coming along gets dinged and somebody else starts to, it's just, you haven't had the uniformity across the board where you feel like, man, that's a week straight of the guys that they're really hoping to have a big year at wide receiver all produced. A, that would be hard to have happen against this defense. And B, they just haven't been lucky enough to have all those guys kind of ready at the same time, as evidenced by the Portier reference just now. I think that's the hard part, really.
This is not an easy discussion in general, because the one good thing I would say is that early in the season, as we just got done talking about last segment, the advantage in the trenches is going to be yours. You know that. And it's just a matter of execution. It's a matter of imposing your will on the ground to create what you're looking for in the passing game. We know that Malik Benson is going to be a weapon for you. We know Kyle Morlock has taken the bull by the horns this camp and has been very, very good. Like, I think that's what we were hoping for. Not that you're going to have your second receiver be first team all ACC. Of course you'd want that. But just to say, like, Kentron, man, what a camp. This is what we've been waiting for. The way that we're talking about Kyle Morlock. The way that we're talking about some of these running backs. Like Sam Singleton's now in the conversation. Notice he gets mentioned a lot more lately.
I don't buy it.
You don't buy Sam Singleton is doing anything worth a damn?
Oh, I don't know. I don't buy that that he's going to be a dude for you this year.
I buy that he would be in that rotation. I would think.
Fair enough.
It's not to say that he's going to usurp Lawrence Toafili's reps.
He's
I'm just saying, if you're having a good camp, they're going to talk about you and say you're having a good camp.
I agree with that. That's a fair thing to say.
And so Andre Otto, we just played the audio. Man, he's really having a good camp. He's put himself in a position to be playing for us in some meaningful moments. That's the thing that we're devoid of in the receiver conversation. The last thing we heard a couple weeks ago was Hakeem is close to doing that. But then since then, it's been, well, I got to tell you, Elijah Moore is still raw, and there's a lot to work on with him, but he shows up in big moments. He's not afraid. LaWayne McCoy's been impressive, but it's like, man.
He's challenging the veteran receivers who have been inconsistent for whatever reason. It falls under all of those umbrellas, right? Some of the guys, which he's now alluded to, I'm using his words, have been dinged and are just getting back or just starting to get into shape, or they're trying to get them back. Some of the guys were good one week, not as good the next. Some guys have good days followed by bad days. All of these inconsistencies lead to frustration. That's where you're seeing a sense of urgency when you hear us talk a little bit about the offense, or you hear Mike talk about that frustration. Think back to last week when Mike said, well, thought it was sloppy. He was mad. He was talking about the offense. I thought we were sloppy, missed some opportunities. Those are Mike's words talking about the offense. Now add up all the times that he's kind of made reference to the inconsistencies of the offense. It's not my assessment, although that is my assessment. It's not Tom's or Ira's or Corey's or Aslan's or anybody else's. That's the head coach telling you that he's a little frustrated by the inconsistencies of the offense.
Well, again, and I'm not going to – I haven't seen practice, but I can guess. I mean, it's basic. I don't even have to have been to many practices in my time covering Florida State to know that when a coach says we had a few opportunities, missed opportunities, we got behind the defense, but the quarterbacks played well.
Yeah, that tells you, right?
I mean, what else could it be but catch the ball? You know, if the quarterback – we missed a couple of guys. Quarterback made the error. We missed a couple of guys downfield. No, we got behind the defense. Quarterbacks played well. So I'm going to infer that we got to catch the football with greater frequency. We've got to run our routes with greater consistency. And it's camp 6, it feels like, for some of these guys. 6 camps. You've had your chance.
Well, that's Ira saying some of these guys have been here long enough to let you know who they are.
Right. And so perhaps the frustration Ira might feel, or you or I might feel, we're wondering if Mike, the person who matters, is going to feel that and say, you know what, F it. I'm going to simplify what my receivers are doing, and I'm going to put these young kids in because they're the ones that show me they're not afraid. Now, they're going to screw up, and unfortunately, that might cost us. That might cost us points, which might cost us a game, but at least I know that these guys have shown me signs of being able to take it to the next level. And a few games down the line into their career, their jump should be exponential. I think that's the math that's going on right now. I don't think that's too much to infer or imply that he's thinking about it. He keeps bringing up these freshmen. It's almost like he's just looking over his shoulder like, what's going on that field over there? Oh,
well, remember, there is
another nice play.
Yeah, there is no other practice field anymore, Tom.
Oh,
it's
that's
happening
true.
right
That's true.
in front of him.
Yeah, that's actually.
It's happening all the time. He sees it every day. They're in with the same group as the other guys.
That's where he might sit down after having a sandwich and a lunch with Ron Dugans and saying, so Elijah made a couple more plays today. And Dugans would say, he continues to.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some of our guys that have been here for 5 years
not making plays.
They continue not to.
Yeah.
What do we think about that, Ron?
Yeah, what do we think about that is a fun question. What do we think about it? It's like when we were talking to Mike Posey and Ian Link Jarrett. Well, that was a mediocre 2 pitch, wasn't it? That was my man hit a double in the gap there on an 0-2 pitch. He did. That got too much of the plate. Sure did. It's not the first time today we've seen that.
You don't look at him. You're looking up above the backstop, and you're saying, did we call that middle in on 0-2? So I think that might have been the third one today.
Yeah.
And now, did you sign that in right? Did you signal that in right? Because it looked like we might have called that middle in.
It was a ringing double off the gap there, in the gap there. Ringing double.
You know, the scout says low and away.
Also on 0-2, it's really not going to be a hittable pitch most days, right? That's how we teach it. You guys see where Dexafit is on board with us here on the Jeff Cameron Show, and the DexaScan is something you may have heard about. It's the most accurate direct measure of all body composition methods. It's more accurate than check this out. This is fun. Bioimpedance, calipers, hydrostatic. It's the gold standard in what is used in clinical diagnosis. It's the only method that can determine bone density and give direct measurements of visceral fat. That's the bad fat, guys. Every other form of body composition can only give estimates. It's the best in the biz. That's what you want to do. By the way, if you want to find out, I'll tell you a little something more each day about Dexafit. Use Jeff25 as a discount code for 25% off any services at Dexafit. So 25% off doesn't suck. Go find out what I'm talking about today. It's it can transform your life, change the way that you go about working out and getting in shape. Dexafit.com. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
For local news now.
TPD is currently conducting a homicide investigation following a shooting that occurred in the 1300 block of Fernando Drive a little after 6 a.m. It happened Sunday morning. When officers arrived on scene, they located one person, an adult male deceased inside of the residence. This remains an open and active investigation, and updates will be provided as more information becomes available. If you have any information regarding the incident, please call 850-891-4200, or to remain anonymous, call 850-574-TIPS. A 38-year-old woman and a 12-year-old boy died in a Dixie County crash during Tropical Storm Debbie Sunday night. A 14-year-old boy was seriously hurt. All involved were from Crawfordville. Witnesses stated it appeared as if the vehicle lost control due to the inclement weather and wet roadway. The vehicle struck a guardrail and overturned. The driver and one passenger were pronounced deceased on scene. Another passenger was transported with serious injuries. This is Rachel and A with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by McLemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A heat advisory continues. Daytime highs approaching 97 this afternoon under mainly clear skies, northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 78 tonight, mainly clear skies. Lots of sunshine tomorrow. Chance of thunderstorms. Highs level off around 96. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently 89.
I'm attorney Carrie Roan with Basic Brooks Law Offices, and we believe you. Now, what does that mean? Over and over, we hear from the people that we represent that when they share their story of how they were injured, either law enforcement, insurance companies, or business owners didn't believe their story. That's why you need an attorney who has your back no matter what. An attorney who starts by believing that you're telling the truth. We are Basic Brooks, and we believe you. Let's talk. 850-777-7777.
There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's a Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so there's if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti, right?
Yep,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape. And, but
never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Rolling on Big River on a Balls McWednesday. I'm going through all of our recruits, looking at years, and I'm again reminded of the theme that I referenced to start the show. How many of these young guys have impressed pretty early on in their careers and have chances to do something that maybe surprises us here sooner rather than later? And I'm also thinking of the times that we've heard Norvell reference those players. He mentioned, was it Jabril Rawls the other day? He mentioned some other guys. And today he was mentioning Andre Otto, who's a redshirt freshman. Now, Andre is a redshirt freshman that also happens to be 6'5", 330 pounds. So that'll work. They have done such a much better job of getting some real horses in here. When you look at this offensive line, some of the smaller guys that are going to, have opportunities to play before they leave here, the smaller guys, like let's say, I don't know, maybe Jacob Rizzi plays a little bit this year or next year, right? The transfer. He'd be one of the smaller guys at 6'5", 310. He's kind of smallish when you look out there and see him in the lineup, Tom.
And that's in the middle of the line of scrimmage, 6'5".
Yeah, I mean that's nuts when you think back to what we were, and look like Jalen Early is probably one of the smaller offensive linemen at 6'4", 300.
It's a generous 300 unless he got into the weight room this summer. But then again, I haven't seen practice, so maybe he legit is.
Maurice is the guy that not quite 300 pounds that we've seen start 457 games or some such number. It seems like
that's correct. Going to set records.
But Robert Scott is 6'5", 340. That's sizable. That is a very sizable individual on the offensive line. We've gone through these guys that time and again, we're like, well, he's going to play in the near future. But even guys that are transfers, you got a 6'4", 335-pound Jeremiah Byers.
Yeah, Keandre ain't small.
Well, and Richie Leonard is 331 pounds at 6'2" and can move. And you are correct. He's not small.
Well, that's the thing is they still want the offensive line to be athletic and move. So it's a tough profile. It's trying to have your cake and eat it too, but they've done a good job of finding players who fit the athletic profile, but then also don't play at 290, 295.
Armella is 6'6", 325.
Yeah.
TJ Ferguson, who they brought in from Alabama, is 6'4", 330 pounds. You mentioned Keandre Jones. He's 337 pounds at 6'3". Darius, who's going to be the belle of the ball on this offensive line, 6'4", 310 pounds. Lucas Simmons is a monster at 6'7", 6'8". They list him. 310. He's probably got to put on another 20 pounds up top. He'll easily be able to do that by this time next year, I would think. So you're going to look at 6'8", 330 when he's being asked to play. Remember, he's just a redshirt freshman.
Yeah. No, and a lot of the guys that they brought into on both lines of scrimmage are really large. Like you're seeing these guys. Jamori Flagg, Denaz White, Manasseh Atiti on offensive line, Jonathan Daniels. Like, yes, you're starting to see that. And in this upcoming class as well, Solomon Thomas ain't small either. And they've got a couple other linemen, the kid that chose us over Memphis, whose name I can't think of right now, but they're all huge individuals with frames to be in that 305 to 335 range. But you have to retain the athleticism to play in this offense or else it's a waste. It's a waste. That was why I thought At times last year, Keandre didn't get in a whole ton, but they're talking about him as having an improved camp and maybe fitting into the scheme a little bit better with all that SEC experience. You don't have to be fleet of foot, but you just got to be able to move and make a defense play you honest.
I feel like if he's going to play in this situation this year, my opinion would be that it would be in place of Ferguson.
Yeah, correct.
It's a team unlike any that Mike has been able to field here since his arrival. That's another reason. I was telling you a moment ago that I was eager to see this team play because there are questions that can't be answered until I see them against another team and not each other. Big part of that is, will this modus operandi work? You want to be able you want to be able to run the football. You want to be able to establish that to get some one-on-one coverages to be able to obviously set up these guys to succeed, which we don't think they're so dynamic they can do on their own without the aid of the run game. It's probably the best way of saying that, right? I don't see that guy right now. Some guys are like, line him up. He's just going to go make plays. I don't care what you're doing. We really don't have that guy.
Not yet, but you might have a couple of those guys in the making, and that's the whole key. Is, in an alternate timeline where maybe you grabbed a player or two out of the portal and you had your quarterback situation in-house. So this was Brock and Luke, right? And you knew you're going to take your licks in 2024. In a way, a season like that, as much as we're trying to set new standards here, we just won 10 games in 13, you can have some fun with letting the kids play and learn because they're really athletic. It's not like this is a 2-year project player that's coming in as though it was Florida State in 2020 or 2021. They're in a place now where the kids they're bringing in were sought after by Ohio State or Alabama or Texas or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're going to take their lumps, you're also going to see bright spots as well. But they're really, again, they're trying to land this plane in a storm, which is you're bringing in a ton of new veteran presence, which ups the expectations, raises the floor. You expect now Charlotte, you expect an ACC championship game, which I'm not running from. I think they should do all of these things. But then at the same time, you have this budding wave of skill players on the outside that you're hoping you don't have to rely on this year, but you might have to. And if there weren't as many expectations, there weren't as many acquisitions, if you will, by our friends at the Battle's End, you could get down with that and say, hey, man, I just can't wait to go watch Elijah Moore, LaWayne McCoy go play with Brock. But you're trying to lean on veterans to defend your ACC crown. So we can't quite do that and have fun with that just yet. But there's a balancing act that's coming with this, I feel like.
I'm always for play the best players. Obviously, as long as they're not a liability, I'm fine with playing freshman receivers. I'm okay with playing freshman running back. You have to be sort of a special case to be a freshman quarterback to play, but they exist. We've seen them. We know that can happen. But if you're a freshman wide receiver and you're as physically gifted as Elijah Moore, and you're making the catches that the veteran players aren't consistently making in practice, Tom, I don't think he'll wait long. I don't think it's the whole first hour today is us kind of alluding to the fact that it sounds like he's running out of patience.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think people could probably hear in our voices that we kind of are as well. It's just, it doesn't preclude these guys from making plays against lesser secondaries. It doesn't this could still happen where you have some of the guys that we've been talking about in practice reports and the second half of the 2 deep for a long time, that Kentron would go out if they can get him healthy and have 6 catches, 74 yards, and a score against Georgia Tech. Like, that could happen.
Oh, sure.
That absolutely could happen. And at that point, maybe everybody settles down a little bit. But the other part is, and this is the difficult part, if you're going against Quindarius Jones and you're going against Edwin Joseph and Jabril Rawls, and I'm not listing the starting 2. I'm saying as you go down your one-on-one matchups and you're facing all of these guys in one-on-one situations.
That's a tough deal.
it's hard to know how much better you've gotten, especially if you're not going to be a superstar, especially if you're not Keon Cole.
You're just a steady player that you're being
Right.
relied upon to be slightly above average, but not a star. Yeah, absolutely. It is.
Like, I don't remember Pokey just dominating before 22
No, he didn't.
in one-on-ones,
Mm-mm.
but then who showed up in big games for us?
Every time.
Right.
That speed translated big time, and he made plays after play after play. Seems about right that you see the headline that Jim Harbaugh received a 4-year show cause case for recruiting violations. Seems about right that he abandoned his alma mater to go to the NFL and not have to suffer the repercussions the way that the university might. These are all things that I would like to get into in the second hour, at least that story is a non-FSU story, because screw that guy eternally. We've said it for a very long time on this show. There has to be a way to enact punishment for a coach or a player who is, in essence, an off-the-reservation renegade who refuses to follow the rules of the NCAA, doesn't care for them, lies about it, gets caught repeatedly, is punished for it, then continues to lie, and, oh, by the way, wins the Invitational in large part because of the amount of disregard he had for the rules that others were playing by.
If you look at the Stallions before and after record, the splits, I'm not saying it's all Connor Stallions, but it shows that there was a ratcheting up of the efforts behind the scenes.
Fairly remarkable.
It almost looks like the first and second half of Auburn's performance against Florida State in the national title game.
Mm-hmm.
Reversed.
Yeah, I'll get into it briefly. It'll be a segment. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Surprising flavors, cultural authenticity, and unique adventures are some of the main ingredients that go into every single plate served at Café de Martín, Tallahassee's best Peruvian dining experience.
We are here, ladies and gentlemen, in Jacksonville, but we're at Everbank Stadium. Oh, you're fine. Let's go watch these guys stretch and practice. You're aggressive today with that water gun. Charles Lester back in returning punts. like this. Don't we like this, everybody? Quick reps. Everybody's getting involved. Sadness. Jalen Brown. If we can get in focus. There we go. Jalen Brown, I mean. Did I say Jalen Lucas? I meant Jalen Brown, everybody. Lorraine McCoy. A walk-on. And BJ Gibson. Get some laces here, boys. Oh, look at that. Shout out to the guy who complains about how tight I shoot, by the way. Oh, look at that.
Turn your hands over. Turn your hands over.
All right, we're going to get our one rep of Kyle Morlock. Maybe we'll get another one? All right. The siren went up, but we're going to cheat. We're cheating. All right, we're done. We'll see you tomorrow.
Now, all while having a higher chance to buy that next home with the contingency of selling yours. If you wait for rates to fall, you risk more competition, sellers less likely to wait, and paying more for that next property. If you're stuck, we need to talk. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. Again, this is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. That's 954-369-6171. And don't forget, for every loan we close for our fellow Noles, I will personally donate $250 to the Battle's End.
Equal housing rent. NMLS number 373031.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Florida's capital city. This is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ball, more football to be played tomorrow. And as we said last week when it started up, every Thursday from here on out into February. And away we go for all of the teams in the National Football League. I was having fun yesterday planning the trips that we want to go on for this year's away games and the like, trying to get the boys to a Bucks game or two this year as well. When was the last time you went to a Bucks game, Tom? Been a minute, right?
Oh, dear. Not a good day in Buccaneers history, but also kind of a good day because what was to come next. But it was Jameis' last start.
Oh, that was the last one you were at?
So Jameis' last start that ended, of course, with Matt Gay missing a 38-yard field goal, and then Jameis' final pass as a Buccaneer being a pick six in overtime. So, yeah. That was
after missing a 38-yard field goal.
Never got to go see Brady play in a Bucs uniform.
I did 3 times, buddy.
Well, that's great for you.
No, I'm just letting you know.
That's wonderful.
I went down and saw.
Happy for you.
I brought the boys to those games. Good times. No, why do I bring it up? I'm really just excited about football. 16 days. 16 days. Remember when I said 99? Remember when I said we're breaking 100 tomorrow, kids? 16 days, and we're playing football, and Florida State's the one to kick it off to say, hey, welcome in, everybody. The long national nightmare is over. Your beloved football is back. Let's enjoy together. Good times.
Gone from Wayne Gretzky days to Teddy Purcell days. There you go.
Nicely done. Yeah, 16, and man, we start doing that thing where you're like, it's 9 and a wake up. I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, 2 weeks from today, we'll be in show 2 of Dublin. Show 2 over in Dublin. I think Monday looks like it's on the outs.
Yeah,
but Tuesday through Friday, we're good. So 2 weeks from today, we will be in hour 2 of show 2 from Dublin, and it will be 7:07 p.m. local time. Yeah, little pub action after. Those post JCS pub moments are going to be nice, or the touring of the different bar districts. That'll be fun.
As somebody who's done a lot of touring there, Tom, I will be eager to show you around if I can.
There's one that's near St. Stephen's Green, I've been told. But my family frequents Ireland as much as I have not. They have. And it's the smallest bar in Ireland. It's actually under the street surface, but apparently it's just got its own aura about it. So I do want to stop over there at least once.
They all do. Some more than others, certainly, but they all do. Huge history, obviously. And so you go in there, you feel that, the ambiance, and you can tell it, and some really kind of famous stories all the way around from over there. So we'll have a good time with that. There's 2 places in particular, Tom, I want to take you that I think you're going to like.
Okay.
We'll have a good old time. It's dark and it's dingy the way it's supposed to be.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Now I do want to go catch a place once or twice that has old school Irish music. I know that's touristy, but I mean, it's beautiful. The sound is beautiful.
Well, a lot of these pubs, I should say, have those too nightly. So yeah, it would be interesting to see if the one we're at does. We could just sit on our ass.
Oh. Is that a flute I hear in a fiddle?
Oh man, here we go. It's underway. Let's make it happen. Yeah, I see. Golly, during the break, I was looking in there at all the people freaking out about the receivers. Let's see how they do this year. Let's see how they play. Again, I think we're at the place in camp where you're like, oh man, I wish they were better. Yeah, okay. They might be all right.
It could be. There's, again, the limiting factor of camp is you're going against your own strengths. And so that can either expose weaknesses or mask pretty good play. It can mask above average play. So it's hard to tell. And that sounds like I'm trying to be overly optimistic. But again, I'll always point to last year's example of they ran the ball well in fall camp. This offense was better at running the football. The offensive line was better at running the football in fall camp last year than it was in pass protection. And it could not have been more opposite when the games were played. We did not block well on the ground with any consistency, but our pass pro was legitimately good. If the receivers weren't always hurt, you would have seen a lot more explosiveness in the passing game.
That's the part I want to address, actually. You just hit on it because there is a lot of angst about how often receivers are hurt, and that is a real concern and frustration. I think that's fair to be angry about, not at any one person, just the injury gods. Like, what? I don't know what's going on with that. We seem to have an overabundance, and I can assure you there's no lack of understanding of how to train people and prepare people for practice and, ensure that you guys are as optimized physically as they can be. I just don't know. Sometimes it happens this way. Injury luck is what it is, and it's that descriptor for a reason. I mean, in physically violent games like hockey that you brought up earlier or football, you have years where you have an overabundance of injuries, and when they happen, you're sensitive to them the following year because you remember how it was your Achilles heel, if you will, the year before. And now you're thinking, well, let's not have another year like we had last year with those injuries. You know, I remember there have been some seasons where the offensive line couldn't stay healthy, where every week you'd lose another offensive lineman, often critical to your success, especially if you were thin there. And it seemed like we would never get out of the cycle of offensive linemen that were down that you were relying on to start. And people would say to me, well, what are we doing? Do we not know what we're doing? Why do we have so many offensive line injuries? And then one day we stopped having offensive line injuries. All of a sudden, guys got through entire seasons and they played well. Fans are always critical of the offensive line. It's the most obvious point of failure when it doesn't succeed, right? I mean, if I miss a block and a guy's in the backfield, you see that from anywhere in the stands that you're watching. So you know that it's my fault that happened, and thus you cast blame in that situation, whereas you might not know a responsibility of a safety in this look or a DB or a receiver or a running back in certain formations and certain plays. You don't know the play that was called. So you might not know that, right? But you do know when the offensive line is a turnstile. And so that's why fans are always quick to point out those deficiencies and overstate them, I believe. I don't know that there's a fan base in the country, even one that is a fan of a team that has the most dominant offensive line in a given year in the sport, that didn't at various points of a season criticize them for not having a good Saturday or whatever it might be, right? Because you're going to run into teams that have good defensive fronts who are going to also have good days, and occasionally that frustration will come out. But now, back to the injury point. They had a slew of injuries at wide receiver last year, and they were all different kinds of injuries. It was crazy. They weren't any one thing. So it's one thing if you're like, well, that's just a soft tissue issue, or why do we have so many twisted ankles, or why do we have so many bone contusions? Why do we have so many, like, they were all different. It's just a variety of injuries that happen to players that are fast twitch players that have to cut, that have to twist and turn and contort their bodies on a regular basis, that are asked to go all out, dead sprints, 20, 30, 40 yards down the field, comebacks, hitches, all these things, right? Crossing patterns that get lit up. Sometimes you end up guys miss a game with their shoulder, rib contusion, whatever it is, right? We had a lot of it a year ago, and I don't disagree. That is maddening because you're being denied the opportunity to be the best version of yourself. And when that happens and you know there's somebody better on that bench who's now missed 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, and your offense is being stymied, and you know that you could help unstymie that bitch if he would just play. It changes everything the defense can do, but you can't will that to happen. Injuries take time. And so when you hear about guys missing time, or a certain player hasn't been mentioned for about a week and you suspect maybe he's dinged, then all of a sudden you're thinking, again with this? Again with this? When a coach like Norvell says today, hey, we're working to try to get Kentron Portier back from injury. Son of a bitch is what you think. Like, again, we've got more guys that are missing. Why is so-and-so in a green jersey? Is he always hurt too? Why haven't I heard so-and-so's name this week? I get it. And I'm here for you, man. I vent if you want, but I assure you, it's not because the training staff at FSU is incompetent. It's not because of the methodologies with which they work out. Josh Storms knows what he's doing. He's done a great job of transforming the bodies. If you look at the mass of this team and all the body types that have been altered under Storms in his short time here, I think we would all say we're very impressed. So we've had some bad luck, and I'm tired of it too. I'd sure like to go into a week of practice or a week of games and say, we're all good at this position. Most of the time, the injury bug seems to hop around at various positions. Maybe you lose a linebacker. Maybe you lose a right guard. Maybe all of a sudden one of your defensive ends is going to miss a game. And your quarterback has got a shoulder problem. Whatever it might. Seems like we've had rash of injuries both with offensive line when they were happening, and now wide receiver in the last couple of years when they've happened. That's to attack one segment group, and that's tough.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a guy who we see a lot in the footage on Warchant TV working out in the walkthrough portion with the quarterbacks, and that's Destin Hill, and he's in shorts, and everybody else is not. And you can't spend too much time here, especially if you're a coach or a player, we as fans can spend a little longer. This discussion could be mitigated if Destin Hill was available and, and he was
greatly
kicking ass.
mitigated because he was having an incredible spring.
Yeah.
All signs pointed to him being a real dude when we came into the fall. When you look at the skill set, Tom, the speed, the strength, all of it, you thought, man, I'm so glad they got that unicorn on campus finally. He showed all kinds of signs of being a very good player, and then he got hurt in spring. And at first we weren't allowed to talk about it, but eventually Mike owned it and said, yeah, he's going to be out. He's going to be out basically for the foreseeable future. And, he, obviously you guys see the video, as Tom just pointed out. He's out there. He's in shorts and a T-shirt, and he's got bands, and he's walking backwards.
Yeah. Catching passes during the
he's standing there catching passes, but he's not going on routes, and that's where we're at, man. You lose a really critical guy there. And the other guys have taken turns kind of having minor bumps and bruises. It's frustrating.
So I can hear the pile-on effect of several segments talking about the receivers. I'm not quite at critical mass yet because the offense is about more than passing. This isn't last year's offense.
Right.
I don't believe that this is last year's offense that's not going to be able to run the football well. Because if that was the case, then I would be panicking. I'd be saying, well, we've got issues. All we've got are home runs and maybe some play action and maybe a quarterback run or two. I think there's more pieces to this offense this year. So because you have a weapon like a Jalen Lucas, because Toafili can split out if you need him. If you need him to, he's got very good hands.
Great hands.
Because Kyle Morlock has owned this camp. That Kyle Morlock has been consistent in this camp. And that tight end position in general has had a lot of bright spots. You brought it up yesterday on the phone. I don't know if you brought it to the air during Seminole Headlines, but you've been impressed with Brian Courtney of late.
Well,
with that development, Kyle Morlock, Amari Williams, Landon Thomas gets back up to full speed, and obviously he gets in the mix. So you've got a ton of weapons there. Running back, you're absolutely loaded. We feel good about the offensive line. Malik Benson, we feel good about Ja'Kai over the middle of the field. Whoever the slot receiver is behind Ja'Kai, you've got a lot of pieces. It's just that you'd like to have them all. You want to have all pieces, and maybe some things develop over the course of the season. But I think the offense is going to generate open looks for these guys. I think they're athletic enough to be open with how Mike calls this offense if we can run the football. All you just got to do at that point is catch the ball and be dynamic after the catch, which I think we've got guys to do that with. So I'm not quite in full-blown panic mode. I just wonder if maybe some of the younger kids might get cracks at that before long.
Yeah, I'm not in panic mode either. I feel the frustration that people feel when your best dudes aren't always out there. I think that's the hard part. That's really what I'm getting at. And I think that we know there are some guys that are just who they are at this point. There are some guys that are mid-level players for what Florida State is. And then there are some guys that have potential to be a lot more than that. And if they're not out there or they're too young and you don't have a transcendent player out there at wide receiver, you just have some regular dudes, that you think, well, that shouldn't be the case at Florida State. That's kind of where your frustration comes from. I don't disagree that you can generate offense lots of ways. And I actually prefer, obviously we all want to have a special wide receiver because they do special things. They go up and make plays when there are no plays to be had.
I can actually do the Wayback Machine now because I'm pushing 40. But when I was in college, towards the end of my time in college, the defensive back room was the one that we asked, can we ever have a guy? We had Patrick Robinson for a minute. We had Tony Carter. But in those days,
they weren't dominant players in college, but yeah.
No, Tony was opportunistic. Patrick was an NFL player, but, it was just you had a guy. And then Jimbo takes over the recruiting process. And just before he did, Greg Reed comes in. But then LaMarcus Joyner behind him. They go get Mike Harris out of JUCO. He flips Xavier Rhodes over. And then your weak link was a rotation with Terrence Parks and Nick Moody. And that wasn't too bad. But that was your weak link in the secondary. Whereas in the previous years of the lost decade, you were looking for two guys that were good.
Any two.
That were good. And we were lamenting some of those names that I won't bring up that still stick in my craw. And you're saying, how at Florida State do we have this guy here?
Right.
But then it flips in a heartbeat.
It can.
All it takes is one or two guys to make some plays, and then that changes the course of the discussion. Greg Reed did as a freshman. He changed the discussion. LaMarcus Joyner changed it towards the end of his freshman year. And Mike Harris, one JUCO guy. It's funny how we've been here before at different position groups. I can think about that now. And then it flips. And it sounds like the help is already not on the way, but here It's just that they need to get experience.
It's good to know that it's in the coffers, right? It's really good to know that it exists, that it's like, okay, well, we'll see what this year is. Not real sure what it's going to be. Should be fascinating at that position. Anyhow, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be a good year. The other part of this is you have to remind yourself of a couple of things. There are a few people who think that Florida State should sustain an undefeated regular season campaign. I don't think they're going to be. I think Florida State's going to lose a game or two. I wouldn't be surprised if they went 10-2. That seems like the most kind of likely projection to me. Well, 10-2 teams have some holes, or they'd go 12-0. They do.
Also, the schedule lays out very nicely.
Schedule does, but it's also not easy.
Relative to other ACC teams that are competing. And what happens when you have 4 good teams in a league? There's a lot of teams with easy-ass conference slates.
By the way, you and I did this today. Let's do this real quick before we go to break. I'm a little frustrated by this. I forgot that what it's going to look like for us to go to Notre Dame. Here is Notre Dame. This is their schedule before playing Florida State. So now I kind of, but in the preseason when those odds came out, and we were like, Notre Dame's favored over Florida State. I don't know if I'd buy that.
It's a dump of a schedule, is what it is.
Well, listen, they begin hard enough. I mean, I do think there are some players on that A&M roster that will challenge them. That game's at Texas A&M, right?
It could be neutral.
We have to go look where that game's at. But yeah, it's on ABC at 7:30. That's August 31st. So anyhow, they start with Texas A&M. All right. From there, this is what they have building towards Florida State. You got to be kidding me. I mean, honestly, if this team's not in the playoff, they're going to have to think about firing their coach. Northern Illinois, at Purdue, Miami of Ohio. They host Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech. Could give them a game, I guess. Navy. They have a bye week before they face us after Navy. So the 3 games Notre Dame plays before hosting Florida State at night at 7:30 on November the 9th are Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, bye. That doesn't bode well, kids. That's they got like 4 to 5 weeks to prepare for Florida State. I know Navy's tricky, but really? Damn it, man.
Well, just for the defense.
Yeah, I know.
Offensively, you don't have to do anything weird.
No, that pisses me off a little bit. And then, by the way, if you're wondering, like you say to yourself, okay, well, yeah, that does seem kind of easy and it's going to be tough for us. Because what do we have prior to Notre Dame before we hit the road?
Miami, North Carolina.
Okay. So now, after Florida State, after they host Florida State, Notre Dame plays Virginia, Army, and we saw the mess of a squad USC was last year. I don't know.
What's their over-under? I wonder. It's got to be 9.5 at minimum.
Easily, and I think I'm taking over there. They're going to win 10 games easily.
If Riley Leonard doesn't fall apart, they'll run him to death.
Automatic. Okay, listen, I know they're not automatic wins. If we were playing the percentage game for Notre Dame, Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Virginia, Army.
Yeah, it's Miami, Ohio once again.
Miami of Ohio. Sorry.
Yeah.
So just these games. I excluded some games, obviously. Here you go. Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Virginia, Army.
That's 9. That should be 85% or higher.
That's 9 that you ought to accidentally win. So the games there's 3 games that they're worried about, maybe Texas A&M, Florida State, USC. That's it. That's all.
You win 2 of those, you're dancing into the playoff. Moonwalk,
especially with the gift that they get anyhow. They have special treatment.
Okay, now yes, they do, but they don't get a bye. Oh no bye week. So here's the thing that could work to our benefit is that Notre Dame is lauded. Somehow, some way, their loss to Louisville when Louisville smoked them last year didn't come into the conversation at all, despite Ohio State.
That ass.
Despite Notre Dame and Ohio State going down to the wire and talking about relative strength of the Big Ten, that gets lost in the shuffle about the discussion about the Invitational. But if Notre Dame does, let's say, beat A&M, they're not going to have more than 1 loss. Without myriad injuries, more to their offensive line, to the quarterback, they're not going to have more than 1 loss when we play them in November.
They'll have 0 losses when we play them in November if they don't lose to A&M. They're playing Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio. They host Louisville. Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy. The only game they could lose there would be to, I think, Louisville. I know football's crazy. They play the game for a reason, blah, 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 blah. They're going to, man, come on.
Okay, so what that could provide, though, is equity for Florida State when we roll up into the dump of a town and we out Notre Dame, quote unquote, because that's what the analysts will say. They out Notre Dame today. Boy, they were just 3 yards in a cloud of dust. 20-13 win over Notre Dame. That buys you equity in the at-large bid should you slip up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't want to rely on that, but yes, that would be nice. Fine, let them be undefeated when we play them. I think that's all the better. Think about that atmosphere. You and I will be there. That's going to be an awful lot of fun to attend.
Ryan called that a max schedule in the chat, in the Heisen Liga chat. That's a max schedule with Florida State sprinkled in there.
It's it's nice, isn't it? Tried and True has an ad program, and they will give you the much needed boost or exposure that your company and the services you provide need. You want more people? This is a way to do that, whether you have the space or need to sell more businesses. The program may be ideal for you. Ideal businesses for the free video ad board that they will provide you would be like a dental or medical office waiting room, auto repair shop, maybe a car dealership, something like that. If you got a spot on your wall for an 80-inch television, and 2/3 of that will be all yours to put whatever you want up there, and then bottom third will be ads. And by the way, those ads could be like your services, whatever it is you provide. So it's really a great opportunity, and I think you want to do business with those who do business with us and who are fellow Noles and who give back 10% of their net revenue to the Battle's End. So there's really a lot of reasons to kind of inquire. The QR code, you see it swipe up there. Hit that sucker. It's a good thing. Find out more. Call my boys, Don and Joe. They're great. They're fellow Noles. 844-464-6653. 844-464-6653. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
You probably already know that Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas is your one-stop destination for all pool maintenance needs, offering everything you need from chemicals, cleaners, vacuums, nets, and more.
We are here, ladies and gentlemen, in Jacksonville, but we're at Everbank Stadium. Oh, you're fine. Let's go watch these guys stretch and practice. Aggressive today with that water gun. Charles Lester back in return and punts. this, don't we? Like this, everybody? Quick reps. Everybody's getting in.
You can create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Really quickly, want to answer this. That question was, why are you shocked, Jeff? They always play a weak schedule at Notre Dame. The 3 Service Academy, 2 FSC level teams, FCS level teams forever. What they do in 23? They played in the Sun Bowl. I know that doesn't count as part of the schedule. Let's see. They played Stanford. Yep, weak, but they did play Clemson, and they did play USC, which when you schedule that game is not weak, right? You'd say that. They played at NC State that year. They played Ohio State. They played at Louisville. They played at Duke. And as I said,
it's a good Duke team too. That was one of the wacky finishes of the year.
Well, let's see. Clemson ranked. Let's see. Louisville ranked. Duke at the time. Ohio State ranked. NC State was ranked. I don't know, man. It's not that weak. And then if you go back to the previous year, 2022,
they've had some masochistic schedules that they've built for themselves. Now the problem is when you're in an ACC rotation and the ACC is as thin as it is. That's why you look at Miami's schedule this year. That's why you look at Louisville's last season or SMU's this year, and you're saying they're dodging everybody. And this is part of the legacy of Florida State that goes back 40, 50 years, anytime, anywhere. We've always been that way inside our state. But we're locked in with Miami and Clemson every year. There are plenty of teams in our conference that don't play any of the three of us in a given year.
Which is nuts.
But we're one of the halves, and we play the other 2 halves every damn year.
Yeah, the year previous to that, they played Southern Cal. They played Clemson. They played on the road at North Carolina, weak. They played BYU. That one was kind of weak, although they also played on the road at Ohio State. I don't know. That's not terrible. It's not terrible.
No, it's just that when you're talking about, this is the thing that bothered me 15 years ago, was why are we doing even revenue splits with the ACC? This is ridiculous. We're also not doing even schedule splits. I'm not afraid. I'm just saying there's an awful lot of teams that make it to Charlotte that don't play any of us.
Any of those.
And they skate, and it's like they have 2 wins over Virginia
or
Wake Forest, where they skirt by 6, and you're like, well, it counts the same as a Florida State loss to Clemson, who was dominant. That, like, no, man, there's only a couple of good teams in this league. There might be 4 or 5 this year, but I mean, really, when you're getting to that upper level of playoff contenders, we play more than anybody every single year.
Think about it last year when we, lamented that Louisville had the joke of a schedule that they had, and we just hoped like hell that we would get a chance to make sure they had a loss because we were going to play them in the ACC championship game, was the thought.
Yeah.
Luckily we did.
Yeah.
Luckily we did. Because that schedule, we were like, really? What that? Get away with murder with that schedule. They should have. Los Angeles Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh has been suspended for a season and given a 4-year show cause penalty by the NCAA for recruiting violations. The penalties announced Wednesday by the NCAA are not related to the Connor Stalions advanced scouting scandal that got him suspended already. Remember, that was a suspension by the Big Ten for the end of the 2023 regular season when he was still at Michigan. Rather, these penalties relate to the 3-game suspension Harbaugh served at the start of the season for an NCAA investigation into recruiting violations during the dead period with COVID-19. The Division I Infractions Committee determined that Harbaugh violated recruiting and inducement rules, engaged in unethical conduct, failed to promote an atmosphere of compliance, violated head coach responsibility obligations. These were reviewed and raised to violations that are categorized as level 1 and aggravated. This is, quote, intentional disregard for legislation of the NCAA and unethical conduct. From there, during the investigation in this case, Harbaugh denied meeting with 2 prospects. Initially, he told Michigan and the enforcement staff that he had no recollection of ever meeting either of those prospects or their fathers. In subsequent interviews, he went further, unequivocally disputing that either meeting ever happened at all. Despite his denials, the weight of the factual information came to light, including statements from the prospects themselves and their fathers and other football staff members, as well as documentation such as receipts and expense reports of the visitation, at which point Harbaugh still denied ever meeting the individuals. Great. By denying his conduct, which was plainly supported by the record, Harbaugh violated the ethical codes of the NCAA. Look, I make fun of the NCAA. There are things that I say to ignore regarding the NCAA. If you read further into all of this, you'll find that Harbaugh blatantly disregarded all of the NCAA rules and frequently lied about it once caught red-handed. Repeatedly. We've seen that before. In other walks of life.
Yeah. It's a dangerous person, somebody that you provide the facts to, and they say, no, well, that still didn't happen. That's like Walter White level stuff. It's Tony Soprano level stuff. And for Harbaugh, it's extremely frustrating because he's petty and small anyway, outside of all of what's going on right now with the show cause. You can go back to the Orange Bowl. He doesn't have enough timeouts, but he forces Florida State to kneel or run more plays because he calls 2 timeouts when 3 is what he needed. He's just a small individual, and it adds to the frustration level of last year where you feel like it's an inside job on the Invitational, and they care about all these things. Quarterback play, right? Jalen Milroe, quarterback play, sure.
Yeah.
Competitiveness, they don't want to blow out on the field. And they're talking about all these things that have nothing to do with merit. And yet, the team that had sullied its own merit, the program that had sullied its own merit, was standing before you as number 1 or number 2 in the country with a pretty easy schedule in their own right last year, a ridiculously easy schedule. I understand they won it all, but if there was a year like a season like 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago, they'd get smoked by one of the top 2 teams in the country. Yeah. Remember the Georgia-Ohio State semifinal, where basically that was the natty.
Those 2 teams were playing. Game. Yeah.
Either one of those 2 combatants would have smoked Michigan by 2 scores last year, 3 scores. In last year's field, though, was so gettable, and the meritocracy arguments that they were making made little to no sense, and there was never anybody bringing up on national desks this particular matter, which he just caught a 4-year show cause. That's a huge penalty.
Second suspension, and
he was suspended in the middle of the year.
In the season, he's missing games because he's suspended by the conference. That conference, the Big Ten.
Integrity of the game. You want to talk about other things about integrity and culture, because that's what they claimed last year with Florida State. They got a culture issue.
Well,
how about a cheating issue at Michigan that is on the record, not whispered about?
Our adversaries and those that hated Florida State's case said that they've got a culture issue, but nobody on the desk at ESPN said that they had a culture issue. They didn't say that.
In response to the 63-3, they might have. Admittedly, I didn't watch that coverage.
They didn't say that before the game, and they didn't say that. That never came up when they were caught. When they were screwing us during the snub. They weren't like, well, there are culture issues there. We're going with Alabama. They didn't do that. Instead, they made a farcical argument about Alabama being vastly superior, despite the evidence of the season played showing that was not necessarily the case. There was, it was debatable.
No, but they went into Happy Valley. They won an ugly game. Congratulations. That's good enough. Throw them in there.
Well, Harbaugh knew what he was doing, and that fan base will not care because that title ain't going anywhere, and that banner will fly, and he has now got an $80 million contract with the Chargers. And those fans, those players, and he's being a former player there, will be idolized forevermore. You can rest assured. The rest of us will roll our eyes, but we understand what that is. 4 years show cause. It will never matter. He's chuckling right now. If I were him, I would tell you that I wouldn't answer a single question about it.
Oh, instead of pounding his chest and saying, I did nothing wrong.
Well, he's done that repeatedly despite being shown the evidence that he's lying. And the thing is, it's one thing that, like, okay, look, you meet with a player. You know, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. In the day and age where you're meeting with players and people are stealing each other players and you go to dinner with a player, I got no problem with that. I'm not going to be a hypocrite about that. Fine. I hope we're doing that. I hope we're trying to steal everybody's best players all the time. I hope we have secret dinners left and right. Here's the thing. Once you get caught, and here's the overwhelming evidence, and it's against the rule, you got to go, you got me. Yeah, you got me. Damn it. You can't do the thing where you're like, well, here you are eating with him.
Yeah, right.
You can't do the R. Kelly. Is that you peeing? Here on film peeing. We've got you peeing. No, that's not. It wasn't me.
It's the end of The Informant.
Right.
And he's on the couch.
Yeah.
And he's trying to rephrase and reframe.
Yeah.
Stop. Just, was it his wife? I forget who it was.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Right.
And he can't help himself.
You're like,
well, but if you look at no.
Yeah.
Stop.
Just do that. Just do that. That's the best. Even Michigan was mad. The administration was mad about that. They're like, let's go. I mean, we're trying to win games. I got it. We'll take the slap. Let's go.
Right. They're giving us a life raft. Jim, you just have to say.
Just say it's you. We're looking at you. It's your favorite restaurant. You took them to your favorite restaurant.
You can laugh while you do it.
Yeah.
You can be like, yeah, what can you do?
Oh, that guy. Oh, I'm sorry. I mixed up the names.
You could even reposition it and come out stronger and say, in this Wild West era where we're paying players.
You're mad at me for taking a guy out to get a hamburger?
There it is.
Really? That's what we're doing?
Instead.
Oh, you got me. Yeah, you could have done that.
Those receipts were fabricated.
I didn't do it. Not real. Didn't happen. I'm not there. You're on video. You're right there. No, I'm not.
AI can do amazing things.
Chef Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV.
TBD has filed charges against a man 4 months after they say they seized weapons and bomb-making materials from his apartment. Officers began investigating 31-year-old Matthew Wager in March. The Pinecrest Police Department in South Florida tipped off TBD to a threatening post Wager made on X. In the post, Wager threatened to kill employees of pharmaceutical company Kaiser. Inside Wager's apartment, officers discovered hydrogen peroxide and sulfuric acid, two chemicals used in making explosives. They also found packages for Wager in the apartment leasing office that contained more sulfuric acid and formaldehyde, another ingredient used to make explosives. They found Wager carrying a backpack which contained an AR-10 style rifle, magazines and ammunition, a tourniquet, and a ballistic panel. He was also carrying a loaded handgun and a holster on his leg. Then, in June, another tip was provided to police from Wager's ex-girlfriend. She told officers that he left her voicemails containing threats to shoot police. Wager remains in the Leon County Jail. This is Rachel Lene with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by McNamara Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McNamaraSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A heat advisory continues. Daytime highs approaching 97 this afternoon under mainly clear skies, northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 78 tonight, mainly clear skies. Lots of sunshine tomorrow. Chance of thunderstorms. Highs level off around 96. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 92.
A proven leader and effective communicator who is ready to find solutions. My friend Rudy Ferguson is exactly who we need on the Tallahassee City Commission. Rudy is a practical thinker with real-world experience who's committed to moving Tallahassee forward responsibly. I'm Dana Brooks, and I'm with Rudy.
Thank you, Dana. I'm Rudy Ferguson, and I'm asking for your vote for Tallahassee City Commission Seat 1 on August 20th. Paid by Rudy Ferguson, nonpartisan Tallahassee City Commission Seat 1.
There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude, I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean,
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Well,
Otto, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since...
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Don't you think, Tom, I haven't been cleaning up in those table tennis bets for 3 weeks now? I'm continuing to do business with the table tennis. I've exploited it.
You should call it on the table tennis.
That'd be funny. I should start. I'm not going to. I don't want anybody else jumping on board my methodologies. I'm not going to do this, but I got the notice this week that daily football DFS, we're ready to go. Fantasy draft is coming up, and I was thinking of all the ways that I've lost the fantasy football league that I'm in over the years. I'm like, you know what? Dues are due, and I'm going to pay them with the table tennis money I won.
There you go. The people can have college football. They can have golf wagers. Hell, they can have NFL preseason wagers. But they can't have your table tennis wagers.
But the Wyndham is this week, and I'll give them my golf wagers. It's a tough week, by the way. It's tough to gauge people coming off the Olympics and other things, and it's
time zones.
And it's the Wyndham, so the Wyndham is what it is. It's kind of very specific point and shoot course. It's target practice. If you must know, I'll give you 3 names. I did go with Griffin. I also like Bhatia and Cole.
Yeah. They might not be on the TV this weekend is what I'm hearing.
I'll watch it.
Unless they're coming down 16 tied. I think you're just good. You might check it on your phone and be like,
I'll watch it. I watch all these nothing tournaments. I gamble on all of them. And I enjoy it. And I like the nothing players like Griffin, who I bet on this week. Come on, Griffin. You can do it, Ben. Let's make this happen. One of those guys, Steven Yeager, created my biggest payday so far in golf wagering. I've used that money that I won off the Steven Yeager, who beat Scotty Scheffler, I might add, by a stroke. That Steven Yeager win has really funded the rest of my bets for the year. It just takes one Steven Yeager, Tom, and a nothing tournament.
Come on, Griffin.
Let's go,
Make
Ben.
it happen, Griffin.
Yep. +3, by the way. Is that right for the Ravens? That can't be. That cannot be this weekend's preseason. No, it's not. I got it right. That's the September 5th game. Kansas City's favored by 3 over the Ravens. I was looking at games. I was like, what are we doing here? That can't possibly be right.
That's opening night, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is September the 5th at 8:20 p.m., buddy. Golly, we are close to that glorious moment that every man and football-loving woman in the world enjoys, which is you work your ass off for a day, you've got stuff you're doing at the office, and you're running your kids around or whatever your life is like. That's my life, right? Running around, and then all of a sudden you look down at your watch, and you're like, oh, it's 7:15. I don't think I'm going to do anything but grab some wings and an ice cold beer and watch football for the next few hours. It's just glorious.
Opening night special. Oh, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I'm here for it.
Give you an opening night special. Mike Tirico here, high above Arrowhead Stadium for opening night.
Yeah, and I always feel like those games are going to be high scoring just because the way that the league is and the way that they really favor offense. And then those games always end up like 21-16.
They do.
The
only exception was Breeze versus Rodgers opening night years and years and years ago. I think it was 38-35.
Was that right?
41-35. I remember we had the segment the next morning talking about, is there defense anymore? It's great to watch great quarterbacks, but I'd like to have some balance in what I'm watching instead of guys just going up and down the field. But those were 2 Hall of Famers, toe-to-toe in week 1.
By the way, when you do, you can look up. I looked up every Thursday night game, not preseason. You know how sometimes that slate is a little shaky?
Oh. And Al Michaels making $1 million a game complains.
Livid about it.
Like a child.
Well, let's go here, though. Week 1 is good, but here you go. Week 2, Buffalo at Miami. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. By the way, Miami, you better win this year because the contract you just gave Tua is really a problem starting next year from a cap standpoint, and most of your best players are going to have to go elsewhere. So you're all in on this year.
Yeah. How many chances do you have to win with him? How many years? About Tua.
1.
That's it.
You got this one. This is the one. After that, it's like 60 million hit on the. Oh no.
Well, yeah,
no.
yes. Yeah.
And he's fragile. The following week. No, that's New England against the Jets. Even if you think the Jets are going to be good, great for you. New England's not. New England's going to suck to high heaven.
Al will be grumpy and Kirk will frown and sweat.
By the way, it won't be bad if New England sucks for the next 30 years. Everybody will be all right with that. After that run,
time was when I was growing up.
That's all they did.
It was a discovery when Drew Bledsoe was good.
Yeah, we got Dallas and the Giants the following week. We got the Bucks at Atlanta in a war with the NFC South. Week 5, October the 3rd, Tom.
Diminutive white quarterback game.
Going to war. San Francisco at Seattle. Kind of feels like a good game. Sneaky play by your boy for Seattle to make the playoffs this year.
Whoa. Okay.
Yep.
You still can't have the table tennis bets, though. Still can't have it.
I'll give you that sneaky. You want some more sneaky plays? I'll give you some more. Here we go.
The sneaky Pete's.
Let's go. Here comes one. Here we go. My bets. What do we got here, Jeff? Oh, get out of the table tennis. Lots of those are in the way here. Upcoming. My bets. Upcoming. Here we go. We're going. Oh, some fans aren't going to like this. We're going under San Francisco's win total.
Ooh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is it? 12.5?
I think it's 11.5, and I went under.
Okay. All right.
I went under. We're going under Indianapolis Colts win total at 8.5.
Oh.
Under.
Okay.
Sieve of a defense. And we're all acting like we think Anthony Richardson can play. How do we know? He had 90 snaps. I don't know if he can play. I'm going under.
He needs to play games.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah, I'm going under. Seahawks to make the playoffs at plus 180. This guy said
that's
yes.
it? Oh, well, it's the NFL. I suppose everybody's plus 180 or minus 180.
I said yes. Steelers to make the playoffs, plus 185. Ugh. Plus 185. All they do is make the playoffs, plus 185. And, of course, upcoming, the Pirates over 73 wins. This is victorious already, but pretty much. But, yes.
So we had Jets and Patriots.
Yeah, so Jets and Patriots is a snoozer. But then you get Dallas, New York. Dallas, New York. Sorry. Yeah, you get Dallas, New York, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, San Francisco at Seattle. Ooh, Denver and New Orleans. Oh, man, what are we doing here? How'd that even happen? Minnesota at the Rams.
J.J. McCarthy against Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
Yeah.
Houston at the Jets. Good game. Really good game.
Yeah.
We'll watch that. Little MetLife Stadium, 8:15. Let's go.
What day is that?
These are all Thursday games.
No, I'm sorry. The actual day. Did you have these?
October 31st. November the 7th, Cincinnati at Baltimore. Yes, please. Let's just hope they're healthy. Washington at Philadelphia the following Thursday. No. Let's see.
Yeah, nothing outstanding.
No. Need some work. Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
Could be.
Nice cold weather game.
They're both within a game of 500, one way or the other.
Sure. There you go. I like it. Oh, then we get an ugly one. Although, for whatever reason, they've played them well. Raiders at Kansas City. Week 13.
Good uniforms.
Green Bay at Detroit. Great game. Whoa, week 14, buddy. That's the one.
Thanksgiving?
That's the one right there. That's December the 5th.
Oh,
great game. Rams at the Niners. Great game. December the 12th. Should be a very good game. Cleveland at Cincinnati. Another good game. Thursday, December the 9th.
Okay, so Al's complaining actually worked. How about this? This is good so far.
Some good games. Got some good games. And then I don't know what this will be the day after Christmas, but Seattle at Chicago. That game is, by the way, on December 26th at Soldier Field. It's going to be snowing. That'll be awesome.
What's the in the hunt? They're both in the hunt in terms of the NFL playoff columns. That's what Seattle, Chicago is going to be.
Yeah.
Two teams that are, quote, in the hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You're already setting a record for Thursday night games that are good. At 5.
Just a random checking, and the random checking happens because we got games tomorrow or a game tomorrow at least, I think maybe 2. And then from there, like we were saying, we are whittling down the days where when you get home, there's not a football game on. That's all this was. This was like laying bare for all of you out there. the precious few numbers of days that have to pass for you to get home and not have the option, even if it's a crappy option, of turning on a football game. Because remember, when you start mixing in the college with all this, you've got your Tuesday and your Wednesday and your Thursday. And
I got to be honest. This is some advice as I'm getting older. Get your holiday shopping done now. Because the next thing you know, it's December 15th and it's too late. And you're looking at those shipping estimates. Will arrive by December 27th. And you go, oh no. And you'll think about it during the second half of the NFL red zone window on a Sunday at 4. Ooh, I probably should get a gift for so-and-so. And then you'll think about it the next week during a Thursday night game between Marshall and somebody, Eastern Carolina.
Yeah.
And you'll think about it again before the Knowles game kicks off, but you're in the stadium and the service is no good because it never is. Just do it now. Go find a good hiding spot.
Hard to do
get
it in
done
August, man. Hard to do it in August, but I hear you. I think it is good advice. Noel, Dad, I'll do that for you. We'll get a Tampa Bay, Miami, Jacksonville W's and L's before the season starts. We'll absolutely do it.
Well, yeah. We'll have an hour to do it, an extra hour.
Yeah. I got to get to finalizing the exact day that we're going to do that. I think it's looking more and more like the first week of September. I think it's the last week because we got the Ireland trip and all the weirdness.
They would be discombobulated.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be that September
soon.
Yeah, I think it's September the 1st. I think that's when we're going to do it. Then we can go all in on that. I also got some other things in the works, guys, that I'll have to tell you about, so we'll wait and see, but all content-related fun stuff. I very much look forward to that. Great having you in the studio, Tom.
This was nice.
Appreciated it. That was awesome. Free-flowing, good as it was. We'll be back tomorrow on a Redemption Thursday. Be well, everybody. Peace.